Live from WTOC, the Southeast news leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
We'd like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon here on WTOC Plus. We start with this. WTOC has confirmed the city of Rincon has fired their city manager. Here's what we know. We received a statement from Rincon Mayor Kevin Exley saying, quote, "After much deliberation, the city of Rincon has decided to terminate the contract of Robert Byrd. This is not a for-cause breakup, but more of a for-convenience breakup." Exley also said Byrd's contract was up for either renewal or termination, and that City Council chose termination. Prior to his job in Rincon, Exley worked as the city manager of Pooler. Byrd worked as the city manager of Pooler, I should say. Well, we have new details on a fatal crash near the Effingham-Jasper County line this morning. The crash happened this morning around 5 a.m. at I-95 mile marker 1. That's according to the South Carolina Highway Patrol. A person was driving north in a Toyota Camry when it rear-ended a tractor-trailer. The driver of the Camry was killed, and traffic was backed up near the county line for quite some time this morning. The tractor-trailer's driver was not hurt, and this crash is under investigation by the South Carolina Highway Patrol. Well, police are investigating an early morning shooting on Gouge Street in Carver Heights in Savannah. Officers say it happened just before 4:30 this morning. A man is recovering after being shot in the leg and taken to the hospital. Police have not yet released a suspect description, and it's still unclear what exactly led up to this. Stick with WTOC as the story develops. And Savannah police are investigating an overnight shooting on the city's south side. The shooting happened at a gas station on Largo Drive around 8:30 last night. A witness tells WTOC an argument escalated, which led to the gunshots. Investigators say the people involved left the scene in separate cars, and officers are still working to find out what exactly led up to it. We have more details as state lawmakers approved a bill allowing residents to sue local city governments over their gun ordinances, and now the mayor of Savannah, Van Johnson, is responding. The city of Savannah passed a gun ordinance back in 2024. The law punishes people who leave their loaded guns in an unlocked car. Mayor Van Johnson says the city saw a 30% drop in gun thefts since that ordinance was passed. When asked if cities should have more flexibility than the state when dealing with local crime trends, he said that lawmakers don't always see the realities that city leaders face when it comes to gun violence.
Instead of looking at it from a 30,000-foot view, looks at it from the eyes of people like me in cities who go to crime scenes where we see guns that have been acquired illegally, or suicides where guns have been acquired illegally, or little kids who shoot themselves or bring guns to school from guns that have been acquired illegally.
The bill allows anyone cited under the ordinance to sue the city within a year of citation. The legislation will now head to Governor Kemp's desk. In the meantime, Mayor Johnson says he's reviewing the city's options for Plan B. Well, at the State House, ICE operations nationwide are now drawing scrutiny from Democrats at the Georgia Capitol. Lawmakers have rolled out a package of proposed bills aimed at limiting how the agency operates in the Peach State. Yesterday, Democratic lawmakers, advocates, and families rallied on the steps of the State House. The proposed legislation would require ICE agents to identify themselves visibly and limit enforcement actions in sensitive locations like schools, churches, and hospitals. Mildred Pierre, whose husband Rodney Taylor is currently being held at a detention center, supports the legislation, but Republican leaders have criticized the proposals.
The gentlemen did not have any markings on their bulletproof vests. It was scary because they all had their guns, and my kids were in the car.
As far as wearing of tactical gear, whether it be a mask, a helmet, or anything else, that is a decision made based case by case, and the supervisors make those determinations. Not a group of legislators sitting in an air-conditioned and heated room in the middle of Atlanta, Georgia.
Staying at the State House, for the roughly 1 in 8 Georgians who use the SNAP program, there's a bill in the State House that could restrict what you can buy with SNAP benefits. The proposal looks to keep low-nutrient, high-sugar, and artificially sweetened foods out of grocery carts. It would only let you buy a certain amount of things like soda, juice, and energy drinks. Similar changes have gone into effect across 5 other states at the beginning of this year. The bill would also require SNAP recipients to recertify every 12 months around their birthday. Happening tomorrow, Governor Brian Kemp will deliver his final State of the State address. It's set for 11 a.m. Thursday morning at the state capitol. He's expected to outline his priorities for the legislative session. The governor is in his second consecutive term, which runs until next January. We will be covering the full State of the State address right here on WTOC Plus. You can stream it live tomorrow at 11 a.m. In international news today, a high-stakes meeting is taking place over the future of Greenland. The foreign ministers of Denmark and Greenland are meeting with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. That's all as President Trump dials up the pressure for the U.S. to take control of the island territory. Now, analysts say Vance's presence at the meeting makes those threats much more serious. WTOC Washington correspondent Stephen Goen has the pushback from leaders abroad who insist Greenland isn't cutting ties with Denmark.
President Donald Trump is escalating his push for U.S. control of Greenland, calling anything short of that unacceptable. On social media, the president's saying that officials within the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, should, quote, be leading the way for us to get it, adding that he believes if we don't, Russia or China will. But leaders in Greenland and Denmark continue to push back. This week, Greenland's prime minister saying, if we have to choose between the United States and Denmark, here and now, we choose Denmark. Trump responding.
I don't know who he is, don't know anything about him, but that's going to be a big problem for him.
The president framing Russia and China as a critical threat in the region. On social media, Trump saying, NATO, tell Denmark to get them out of here now. 2 dog sleds won't do it. Only the USA can. Those comments in response to a Danish intelligence report that warns China is preparing to have a military presence in the Arctic, with China and Russia reportedly deepening cooperation in the area. And in response to Trump, we're learning Denmark is now deploying military equipment and troops to Greenland. That's according to Danish media reports. In Washington, I'm Stephen Goen.
And staying at the nation's capital, the Supreme Court's conservative majority signals it could uphold bans on transgender athletes in sports. Justices heard arguments on bans out of Idaho and West Virginia focused on transgender girls competing on girls' school sports teams. The key issue is whether those athletes are protected from gender discrimination under the 14th Amendment or Title IX.
For the individual girl who does not make the team, there's a harm there, and I think we can't sweep that aside.
Some justices seem to be looking for a way to limit the impact. One possible outcome would be the court undoing lower court decisions in favor of the transgender athletes and asking the courts to take another look at the issue. A decision is expected by the end of June. We should also note that Georgia is one of the states that bans trans girls from playing in girls' sports, among other restrictions, such as keeping transgender athletes from using the locker rooms that match their preferred identity. Advocates at the time said that SB 1 discriminates against transgender people, calling it a, quote, cruel attack on children and young people across the state of Georgia. Well, this is first on WTOC Plus. The Georgia Department of Agriculture has confirmed a positive case of avian influenza, also known as bird flu, at a poultry operation in Henry County, Georgia. This is the first positive bird flu case of the year, the 4th case at a commercial poultry operation in Georgia since the nationwide outbreak began back in February 2022. Georgia's Ag Commissioner Tyler Harper said in a statement that bird flu poses a serious threat to Georgia's top industry and to the thousands of Georgians whose livelihoods depend on poultry production. They say that the Ag Department deployed immediately and staff is working to prevent any further spread as well as to protect the state's poultry flock. From bird flu to human flu, doctors here in Georgia have been warning of a serious flu season. We're hearing from Dr. Andy Shane, the Chief of Pediatric Epidemiology at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Dr. Shane says they're seeing high rates of flu transmission, especially here in Georgia. She even said that rates were the highest among children in the past several years. She says there are concerning trends this season, including a drop in flu vaccination rates. However, there are still steps you can take to protect yourself.
We had an earlier start to our flu season this year in Georgia, and so I think that caught many people unprepared. And so we really encourage people to get vaccinated. It's not too late to get vaccinated. We often see a second peak in late January and early February with another strain of the flu virus. And so that strain is included in the current flu vaccine. And so we would really recommend that everybody 6 months of age and older get a flu vaccine if you haven't been vaccinated so far this season.
Now, Dr. Shane also said it's imperative for pregnant women to get vaccinated. She said she's already seen several young babies who have been hospitalized due to the flu, and the best way to protect them is for the pregnant mother to get vaccinated. Turning now to consumer news, if you borrowed money from the Department of Education to pay for college, and if you're behind on those student loan payments, the Trump administration is cracking down. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger explains what's happening and the steps you can take.
The Department of Education is sending out notices that could impact more than 5 million federal student loan borrowers who are in default. Even if you have not yet received notification, it's important to understand the process when you do not pay your loans on time. When you miss a payment, even just one, you are considered delinquent. Once a payment is 90 days late, it gets reported to credit bureaus, which dings your credit score, making it harder and more expensive to get approved for credit cards, car loans, or mortgages. You are considered in default after 270 days of non-payment. The DOE is notifying those in student loan default that their wages will be garnished, which means the government can take up to 15% of your paycheck directly without going to court. Federal benefits like Social Security and income tax refunds could also be tapped for repayment. So if you're in default, contact your loan servicer immediately. You have a few options: loan rehabilitation, making 9 affordable payments over 10 months, loan consolidation into a new direct loan, or switching to an income repayment plan that fits your budget. The key is acting quickly before garnishment begins. The Department of Education says more notices will be going out in the months ahead. In New York, I'm CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
All right. Well, before we sign off here on WTOC Plus, wanted to show you something that at least I thought was pretty cool. Lego is interlocking with the Pokemon universe. The toy giant has unveiled its first ever line of Pokemon sets, marking a major crossover between two of the largest play brands in the world. The first collection will debut on February 27th, and it's inspired by characters throughout Pokemon's 3-decade history. Features several fan favorites, including Pikachu, Eevee, Venusaur, and the dragon right there, Charizard. So pretty cool. I remember playing with Legos all the time when I was young. I loved the Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings sets especially. I still think Lego makes them, which is still pretty cool. My room back in middle school, I lived in Indiana. Me and my dad put in shelves with just rows and rows of different Lego sets. So some very fun memories of that toy brand. All right, and with that, we are going to wrap things up here for the news on WTOC Plus. We appreciate you all spending part of your afternoon with us. We'll be back in just about 40 minutes for Welcome to Our Community with Dawn Baker. And you can always head on over to our website in the meantime to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching, and here's Local News Live.